Confidence is massively underrated as a solution to many of the current problems Western societies face. It can be the single biggest foundational difference maker between where you will end up, whether it's a good ending or a bad one. Let's explore this. Pushing confidence up should be a priority, whether it's personal or societal. Why is that? Why is this such a heavily underrated topic in the area of content creation, but also content consumption, believing and disbelieving in certain ideas being pushed out, in the area of why people fall for certain ideas, even if they seem so clearly wrong? Sure, confidence might be part of the conversation, but there are other elements that get all the attention, that get all the focus. For example, people talk about getting more information and then sifting through it to get to the right information, trying to figure out what is true, what is not true. Then people focus on the right commentators. Find people that you can trust, find the right people to listen to. Sure, this is good advice, but still doesn't hit the right spot, at least not completely. People from one side say the others are lying, and people from the other side say they are lying. You finding good quality commentators you trust to speak the truth is great, but what if there is a time they don't? Too much belief can become problematic if you don't have any other tools to work through information you receive. Of course, you can try to figure it out, work through things, use your critical thinking ability to understand what's going on, but it is difficult. The elusive question that seems to matter most sometimes, and sometimes not at all, is what is true. And additionally, even if you find the right people, even if you get all the information, the problem is you cannot solely depend on other people, even if you can trust them. Coming back to the question, what is true? This is fair, this is a good question. What is true? You need to figure it out, which can be difficult, especially when there are emotions at play and your group argues against another group. For example, the left versus the right in politics. How much does truth play a role? It should be all that matters, with only the interpretations of that truth being more weighted to your side than the other, but it doesn't seem to be that relevant oftentimes. Only as a stick to beat the other side with. Right? Truth matters especially if it goes for you and against them. Otherwise, you try to ignore the truth or put it aside. Add to this that there are issues not just on the surface, but below. Issues that impact how people deal with information, how they process something they hear, and whether they are even receptive to anything besides emotional-based propaganda and easily digested, everything makes sense, and it is not your fault type of speech. This has an additional impact that most people often don't see until it is very far along. For example, there seems to be a much bigger push to the extremes of the left and also to the far right or even outright neo-Nazi type of content. It seems to impact more and more people, especially younger ones. Now this is tricky. For one, it is simply really bad and sets us back, but also it is a problem that seems to be too difficult to solve. People and organizations try, but it is hard to work through it, to come out on the other side, especially at times where institutions were not always doing the right things to the benefit of the people, and there were plenty of times they and the media lied. Now everything can be pointed towards manipulation and lying, and suddenly you don't even believe the facts that prove that these extremes are wrong. Part of the problem is social media. There are many quality content creators and commentators, critical thinkers with knowledge about the topics they talk about. People are generally fine if they follow them, but the marketplace is massive. There are many bad people pushing agendas, and plenty of new people enter it with shady and nefarious ideas. Most importantly, they don't even need to be particularly bad people. If the money and clicks and views and likes are in certain conspiratorial thinking, it will bring a variety of people into that field. Even if those metrics are manipulated by bad actors, including bad foreign actors, it doesn't really matter. If the metrics are in one place, people will flock towards it. Do they truly care whether they get 100,000 real views or if it's bots? Even if you put aside the money part, right? Seeing how many views you have, how many likes, this can be a very addicting thing. Now you sit down and wonder. In theory, you understand what is right and what is wrong, and it should be quite obvious in many cases. For example, we talked about people moving more and more far right. You look what they are saying, and with even some history knowledge, you would think it is clear how bad it is. Then you try to explain, okay, look at what happened in the Second World War and the Holocaust, and you see, here are the explanations of why these ideas are wrong. Here's proof that this is bad, and conspiracy theory A and B and C are wrong. This is factually proven, and you break it down. Does this work? Even though all of this sounds logical, you would assume that you push people out from the mainstream media and how they lied, and it should work the same here. Here you even have more proof that you're right. And yet it doesn't seem to work. In fact, it seems the numbers are growing of the extreme sides. A big part of the reason this doesn't seem to work, which interestingly enough is not new today, you can see much more of the same when you look at history. At the worst of times, the worst ideas come to be. What I mean with that is look at the economy, the feeling of not being able to afford even the basics, but also when it comes to mental health and the just general outlook of life. At the worst of these times, the worst ideas come out in force. Kind of makes a lot of sense, right? Germany of the past is a good example where the people were kind of broken from the First World War and had many problems, including a devastating economy. This led to a crack, and through this crack, real evil managed to come in, infesting the people like rot, that became more and more extreme, which again then exploded in the Second World War and the Holocaust. So if this is true, then we need to search for solutions in these areas that are so prone to crack. Of course, one is the practical aspect of an improved economy, which is unfortunately something not easily changeable by one person or the other. This is the government's domain. Then there's a psychological element that can change what does seem, unfortunately, like an inevitable outcome. Saying something is wrong, even proving it with facts, doesn't seem to help much. And so we need to look deeper into psychology as an answer. And here we can find the answer, or a proposed answer by myself, is we need a base level of confidence. I've already started this with the last video where I talked about how feedback and change only comes if you have a base level of confidence to be able to absorb it. The same is true with how you see the world. The problem that we are facing is not that 80, 90 or 99% are bad and immediately manipulatable towards the worst of positions, but that the evil propaganda and the people delivering it have an edge when things are bad. Conspiracies they talk about won't be believed immediately by everybody, but it will slowly drip into the conscious of people, and if they have an edge, it will slowly push people over the edge. Like a casino that makes millions if not billions of dollars, it doesn't have or need an edge of 90%. When gamblers come into play, the casino might have a percentage win chance of 51%, 55% over enough games. This is more than enough to make a massive amount of money. This is the same here. It's not like a caricature situation where suddenly all is bad and everybody push conspiracy theories. You have sometimes quality people that are able to debate, that are able to go through to certain people, and maybe even a lot of times. But if they even have a edge of 5% with the bad conspiratorial content that just hits you emotionally and invites you in to be more extreme, blame somebody else, it's not your fault, you can be angry, it is righteous anger, then over time this accumulates. This is the danger of the situation, not an extreme move from one day to another, brewing slow changes to the worse by a slight percentage in their favor. Now let's come back to the solution. Let's talk about confidence and why this is the key to the problem. The current issue is that people struggle massively with outside and inside forces. We are lacking critically in meaning, in direction. With all of the possibilities, there seems to be no clarity in what to do. Some outside forces are in fact a problem. Social media addiction and the access to all kinds of computers and devices like the smartphone. The economy is not as it used to be in many ways. Many of the problems people talk about have some truth to them. However, it doesn't change the fact that this should never be the reason that you allow to break you. The pandemic of mental issues and negative outlook on the future must be worked on. A base level of confidence and a certain level of security in your identity are the way to not be damaged mentally by these issues. This is something that can be done through school, through parents, and through all of the institutions that come in contact with children, but also adults. Here's why I believe this is so important to tackle the growing extremist numbers. If you had the confidence to listen to certain things and then say, no, this is as far as I go and no more, I don't like it, I don't believe it, this would be good. Slowly but surely people are being pushed down and bogged down to go deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole. Without confidence, you become a hostage of other people's manipulations. If you're at the base level of confidence, you could say, yes, okay, I hear your arguments. So far, I can go with you, maybe even a little bit more. But at this point, I say no. At this point, I don't believe you, or no, this is too extreme. No, I don't want to go there. And what's so especially pernicious about the situation when you consider now human nature is that once they are being dragged into it, now your mind and all the biases start working against you. It's also something I talked about in the previous video, confirmation bias, where now that you are down there and maybe you get attacked, now you start to confirm your situation Now you start to look for things that confirm your decision. Now your mind tries to work to get you to the place where you believe you are not at fault. You are not the evil person. There's a reason why so few people are able to get dragged out of this negative situation, of the extremes, because their mind now starts to work and make sure that they don't feel bad, that they don't understand this is too extreme. And how will they do it? By finding ways to show you that you're right. This is how your brain works, and this is the combination of reasons that pushes people or groups more and more extreme. And to prevent all of the spiraling, all of the human nature working against you, we need to have a base level of confidence, to not be dragged down there in the first place. Which is why I'm saying it's not only just a personal matter that will help improve your life, but it is a societal issue, where if they can change the way school works, parenting works, the institutions work, that come in touch with these people to focus on creating a base level of identity and confidence, then a lot of the issues would go away. This is important to note, especially when people start coming for these pillars of our society. The smart, evil people know what they need to attack to manipulate you. They know who to focus and who has too much confidence in their ability to think rationally and say no. All types of actions that don't seem to matter do matter. Let's take a look at schools. For example, if people are being taught to have pride in their country, this matters. Or they're taught how bad the country was. This matters also and influences your future. Of course, you learn the bad, but it doesn't mean the country is bad and always remains so. If you're a normal, mentally and emotionally secure person, you will hear things, you will get emotional, you will sometimes forget yourself, you will make mistakes, you will be wrong, but you will come back inside the range of sane opinions without breaking. People that are not that are easily manipulatable and will go deeper and deeper, which is good for the manipulator because they get all the benefits. The trust of all their opinions, the views, money, the comments of support in their chats while attacking other people. Base level of confidence is like a shield that will stop you from being damaged beyond a certain point. And I just want to mention it to make sure that people understand confidence is crucial and it's incredibly underestimated, undervalued to what is really ailing the societies of the West currently.